In this video, we're going to go through change orders, and we're going to cover the two main types. The first one is when a changeover falls outside of the original budget and outside the original scope. And the second one we'll go through is where you have a budgeted item, but the customer wants to swap it or change it for something else. So we're going to start with the first one, where it's outside of the budget or outside of the original quote. And what we do is we go over to the change order screen here and hit the plus button. And I'm going to do this from the view of, hey, been on site and the customer's asking for more downlights in the hallway as an example. So we're really just filling out a form when we're doing this. And this starts to kick the whole process forward. So you're going to give it a name. This will be the title. We're going to give it a proposed start date if you'd like. Again, showing on the document. Delay days, which will show the customer, give them an idea about how things will slow down. And just give it a bit of detail here. And beyond that, it really just becomes a bit of a mini estimate. So we're saying add items, I'll say downlights, and it's perfectly fine for you to use the calculator to reuse takeoffs from the original estimate, or if you want to use this takeoff tool and go in and count, measure items off the plan again using the original estimate also. In this case though, I'm just going to say that we know how many, there's going to be 3 of them, and we know the downlights cost this much each. And with all the purchasing order, if you add new items, which is exactly what we're doing here, really important that we want to make sure we give it a category. And for these electrical items, ideally we'd have an electrical category here, and we'll just put them straight back into it. If you've ever presented with a case where they don't quite fit perfectly in, it's quite all right to create new categories. And all this will do is just create another budget center or cost category for these items to go into. Now, the markup is completely up to you. So this is obviously alter what the variation document says. The markup is really the only thing in here that doesn't show directly through to the customer, i.e. We wrap it up in the total other costs. So they're not really across that much the same way when we did the original estimate. So we're just going to say downlights, we're going to say install, and we're just going to give it a lump sum. And again, add markup as you'd like. Now, these T buttons reference the schedule. So in the instance like this one, where you want to put on a labor or an install item onto your schedule, once the change order is accepted, this is how you do it. So I'm going to say save and close, and it will give us the change order line. And we'll go through and print it or print preview it, just so we can have a quick look at what the customer sees. As always, a couple of options here. PDF is always the easiest, and this is what the customer will see. So here we can see any of the customer details pop in here. You'll have the obvious change order numbers up here, dates up at the top, delay dates, start dates, all of that is up here, and any information you passed on just gets put into this details area here. Now, the most critical of all of this is generally is the costing side of it. So really transparent as to what work has been going on, and you can kind of get an idea that this is really just reflects how much you put in. So if you want to share a lot more, that's fantastic. If you want to add more lines into the charge order, if you want to show less, it's very much the same. But back to the markup. As mentioned, it's wrapped up in the unit prices here. So one thing I particularly like about this is the fact that we show the current and proposed contract. And the idea behind it is really that the customer might be getting several change orders in a row. And then on the last one, they get a bit of shock when they go, all of a sudden, hang on, how on earth did I spend this much money? And this makes it front and center the whole entire time, so they can keep that very much in their mind. From here, the customer goes in and signs it off, and yourself as the builder would sign off as well. So it's all nice and official. And we're going to go back to the change order tab. And I'm just going to say that it's been accepted now. So we'll go into the change order, again, very much like purchasing everything in the change order, and also the invoicing later when we get into there. So everything here has a status, and we're just essentially pushing it along. So I'm going to say it's been sent out, and we're going to accept it now, which is the status that really makes it all happen. So that will be pushing it forward into the invoices and forward into the costing screen. So if I go into the costing screen now, you'll have a new category for electrical. Notice it's added estimate items as though they came from the original estimate, but If I use this little up arrow for details, you can get a split, i.e. How it's come to the budget total. And this happens because we had an original figure plus now a change order figure. Again, another little tip here, you'll notice there's a blue link, and as with anything in Buildxact, you can click on any of the blue links and it'll pop back to where the change order is to give you a little bit more information. Excellent. Now that it's done, you can absolutely go and order off these or put receipts against them as it happens. It's also added items to the schedule. Now, I won't go into that for now, but just to mention that it has done that. And that brings us to our second example. And this is more of a swap one. And I want to run through this just to give you and show you how to create and initiate these. So let's say, for example, I'm the customer and they've gone and picked another cooktop, which was originally an allowance item. I can then now go grab that one. It's an allowance item here, and we're going to turn it into a change order. And what Buildxact will try to do here is basically figure out how much needs to be refunded. So what it's done is go, great, you've spent any money here, i.e. there's no actual figure, and hence you're going to refund the whole lot. If there was an actual figure, it will then be refunding or requesting just a portion of that amount. So we'll do that. As always, worth a double check because if you're dealing with any fractions of quantities or multiples, sometimes it can get a bit tricky, so it's always worth double checking with anything financial just to make sure nothing falls through the cracks. For now, I'm going to hit enter. And really here, the whole idea is that we've now got a negative line and we have a positive line. I'm just going to say selected cooktop. Obviously, you can put an actual number in there. They might have gone and spent $400, and the markup on this one's a bit of an interesting one, mainly because everyone has a different way of approaching this. If your contract says, hey, look, we just do the markup on the variation costs, right? You can go 20%, and that's just added that one in. If your contract says we do it on the difference wise, then you can say, well, we'll refund you the markup amount and just charge you the new markup amount. And you may say that, look, we just, don't have any markup at all. And obviously you can do that one too. So very much up to you how you handle it. So obviously really important to have a little bit of think about what you think is the best way for yourself moving forward. But again, it's really just done by choosing the markups and where they need to go. Now, I won't go through all these print options because you can see pretty clearly how it's thinking about it. It's really just working out the difference, and you can add more items in if you need to, but when the customer sees it, they're going to see the refund happening and also the new items going in. And the end result of that is that if we jump right to accepting here at the end, the result is a couple different things. So when we just quickly refresh the page, it will then put in the cooktop allowance and the selected cooktop, so it's refunded that line. And my personal preference, I usually drag them around just so next to each other, just so it's nice and balanced and it can kind of show all the different change order items together. And it's obviously going to push that change order into invoicing, so we can then go and get the money off our client or refund them as we need to. But for now, that's change orders.